Hi, this is Malcolm McDowell. You're watching Without Your Head. I mean, head as in what kind of head are we talking?
Here's this one.
Yeah. Oh, this one. Okay, so it's clean. Okay.
This is Nasty Neal, the station of decapitation without your head, and we're here at the Harvard Film Archives for Boston Underground Film Festival. I'm here with the star of Queen of Hollywood Boulevard herself, Rosemary Hochschild,
Correct.
and her son and director and writer, Orson Oblowitz. Awesome. So last night was the world premiere, so what was that like to watch a movie that you've been working on for so long with an audience?
Oh, it was unreal, and it was such a good audience. Like, the crew was so good, and people just like I loved how much like people are sick, dude. Like where they choose to laugh is amazing.
That was
incredible to find out. I didn't know that there was so much like black humor in the movie until the audience found it.
I didn't know it because my second time seeing it, I saw it at home, and then first time seeing it on the big screen, and I didn't expect all the laughter either. But it was cool being in there with other people and sharing this experience. And then you kind of find more. I found more humor in it than I did watching it myself.
Well, I think this is it was an interesting thing because I think the thing about film is like it's been so personal to me for so long that like finally getting the point to be like film exists with an audience.
Yeah.
So getting to that point and seeing what it meant to the audience was really amazing. Like it was really, I was so enthralled more with the audience reaction. I'd seen the film so many times, so I was like watching the audience and being like, wow, like this is, it was an experience for them, and that's what it was about, creating that.
What about yourself? Because you didn't expect a lot of the laughter.
No, not at all. I was really surprised by it. But I was also wondering whether it was because people don't know how to deal with what's going on in the screen. Like a nervous reaction to it. But sometimes it felt like a real belly laugh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. From some that I was a little surprised at. But like I said, a lot of the stuff, like I just didn't see the black humor before, but you definitely saw it.
Yeah.
I will say, I remember shooting the film, and there was one moment, I remember when it happened, and I said, when I shot, I said, "Oh wow, there's a real comedy in here," and I found that through shooting. So I wasn't necessarily as surprised because I had the same experience behind the camera that I had watching the audience, which was like, oh yeah, like almost like there is this dark humor, there is this cynicism to it, and the sardonic humor. And I think when you deal with death and kind of themes that we were looking at in the film, you can't help but laugh at that, right? Like that's why we love black comedy.
Yeah. And what was the feedback like after when people started to talk to you?
It was fucking amazing. It was incredible. I mean, there was so much love for me and for Orson and the movie. I mean, we knew we had a beautiful project when we were doing it, and we were all so committed to it. It was amazing.
Yeah.
It was unreal, honestly, like, and it was very smart. And that's why I love the group of people here. Like, it was a very informed conversation, and it was really good, man. I mean, a lot of people came up to us and they were like, thank you, this is amazing, can't wait to see it again. But beyond that, and the whole point of the film was never to satisfy everyone, it was to have people have conversations afterwards about it. And I felt like people were talking about it, and at that point I'm satisfied.
Was there a reason you chose Buff to premiere it? Or did it just work out that way?
It worked out that way. Like, someone once told me, they were like, some films they find their place. You can't control everything, even though as like filmmaker we do our best to control everything. But there's a point where it finds its place, and it just all worked lined up. I went to college here at Emerson. The Brattle I went to in September of 2005, the first day of school, saw a 35 millimeter print of Brazil there.
Nice.
And it was a very it was a very transformative experience for me. So when they came to me, and we had reached out, and they came to me, and it worked, and I'd been to Buff when I was in college, so there was like this very familiarity with it to me. It felt right, and I really think their approach and everything has been awesome and elevated the experience.
Yeah. Have you been here before?
Never.
No. Okay. Mm-hmm. So, do you like the area?
I love it. I mean, just to be in Harvard is incredible.
Yeah. My first time here. So actually, do you always wear those glasses like you do in the movie?
No, my glasses broke. That's why I'm wearing them.
Because I thought when I was watching, a lot of the times when you had the glasses off, it's like when your character's more vulnerable.
Right.
It's almost like like your shield or something.
Yeah.
Well, that's true. We actually, that's a really interesting thing you say that, because we talked about her jacket and her glasses and her cane being elements of armor, and as they got peeled away and destroyed, she became more vulnerable.
Yeah, which I thought was really powerful in the movie. Like, you see it in the beginning because it's kind of a flashback when she doesn't have them on. But the first time I think you see after that when she takes them off is when she sees her son, being tortured on screen.
Yeah, she takes it off and to see the girl, to see the young girl.
That's true. Yeah.
Right.
But those are both times where she's more. She lets down her guard a little.
Yeah. Grace herself. Her look, was that like from Jodie Foster from Taxi Driver?
Oh, hell yeah. Hell yeah, dude. I mean, I know everyone, people love that film, but like, the whole scene is taken from it.
Yeah, because I thought he was kind of like
Harvey Keitel, yeah. Oh, literally, so Taxi Driver was a big Bible for me for this film. I mean, it's my favorite film of all time. Yeah. So, like, I think I always go back to it. All of Taxi Driver seen through Travis Bickle's POV until the one scene where Harvey Keitel and Jodie Foster dance with each other and they listen to music, and he says, "I love you, baby. You're mine." Yeah. So the only time in the whole film that you don't see something from Mary's POV is when Grace enters with Percy and they're having the conversation. So it was a total reference to the Harvey Keitel, Jodie Foster scene in Taxi Driver.
Yeah. How about the names? Because a lot of religious names, and I noticed he had like the serpent necklace. Was that religious?
The Mary thing, I mean, it came from her name. I mean, obviously there is religious undertones throughout the film. I think the snake was more of a metaphor for the character.
Yeah.
It was very much something that
the snake and the cane together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even you modeled your whole kind of approach off like the way a snake slithers.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like it's it's kind of like how a snake, we have such a negative connotation to snakes, but they're actually amazing creatures that survive in the harshest climates. I mean, they live in the middle of the deserts in Namibia, and they live. So they have this amazing ability to survive on their own terms. And I think that's why we were looking at the snake as a metaphor throughout the film.
Yeah. I like the movie takes its time, nothing's like rushed.
Yeah, that dreamy-like quality that everyone's talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to pick different films call for a different approach. I like films that take their time. Sure. Sometimes, some days, let's blow some stuff up. Like,
this wouldn't be the movie.
This isn't the movie. No, and like you're the whole point was like we have to let people enter the world. And if you don't like the world, that's fine. That's you're the audience. You can turn things off, or you can sit there and go through it. And I wanted to feel almost hallucinatory by the end, where like you were just kind of like, you get caught up in that fever dream, and then at the end of it, you're like, where am I? What have I been through? So, and it, like to have the same way that like Lynch does it with his films, and like Lost Highway, where the film just kind of begins and everything's familiar, but you don't know where it's from, and it just, it's little moments that should be passed over. He belabors for long periods of time,
Now, what kind of movies did you guys watch together, like when you were growing up?
Growing up?
Yeah.
We should talk about The Crying Game. I was a single mom with Orson, so I would take him wherever I went. He hated the theater. It was very difficult at the theater, but he loved movies, and we'd go to the movies. And a pivotal part in Orson's becoming a filmmaker was The Crying Game, and I'd asked two of my friends if it was okay to bring this how old were you? 9. This 9-year-old into the Angelica Cinema to see it, and they were like, there's this one scene that you should just not let him see, the transsexual scene and the thing. And so I sent him outside to wait outside the theater till the scene was finished, and then Orson will continue.
Yeah, so I'll never forget this. We were watching The Crying Game, and she's like, you can't you can't watch this scene. And I'm like, I'm 9. I'm like, huh? Like, what do you mean? There's like this.
Yeah.
So I go and stand outside and with one of the ushers, and at the doorway to the theater, there was like a little porthole. And I watched the scene through the porthole.
Right.
And it was this moment of like understanding the boundaries and the threshold of violence and censorship and the audience and our distance to film. Like, it just, obviously I didn't understand it all then, but it was this pivotal moment in my love of cinema, was watching The Crying Game, this violent scene through this little glass portal. Yeah. It was so voyeuristic.
So did that added to it, watching it through.
Oh, 100%. That totally elevated experience. But we also watched, I mean, you showed me a lot of stuff you shouldn't have showed me. Sid and Nancy.
Oh, yeah, Sid and Nancy. He saw a lot of...
We watched a lot of movies. I'm trying to, it was interesting. Like, movies growing up, we watched a lot of them, but a lot of what was available to us. Also, just my father's in film, so he also showed me a lot of films. And another experience was, he took me to see 8.5 when I was young. He would just drag me. It was like, I was just getting dragged places a lot of my life. So, but as we kind of got older, we started watching a lot more. We watched
like
Fassbender to Death, and Vendors. You showed me. You know what you bought me? Do you remember for my 18th birthday? You went to the 99-cent store and you bought me like 50, like old. They were like these amazing, like 4 pictures on each film, like 99-cent creature features.
I don't remember.
It was like all the Corman stuff and all the early like. What was that movie like? Like, even weird movies were on there, like Ride the Whirlwind by Monty Hellman with Jack Nicholson, Mad Dog Morgan with Dennis Hopper, like these crazy exploitation movies that like totally were the basis for everything I've ever loved. So there was this one moment where she just like came home with like, she was like, it's your birthday, here's like 50 like 99-cent store DVDs. But they were so, that exploitation stuff really obviously is like I go back to as like my Bibles for a lot of this.
I also think like action came from, because when he was a baby and I first introduced him to VHS movies, right? I would show him the Superman Max Fleischers, and he got very turned on by them. He wanted to fly. He took the cape and jumped off.
A lot of good that did. Ended up in the hospital.
Stitches in there.
Oddly enough, I have a single mom too, and my brother's 9 years older. So instead of a babysitter, she'd take me to the drive-in with him.
Oh, the drive-in.
So I'm a little older probably. So I was seeing stuff when I was like 6, like Night of the Living Dead and stuff like that.
Hell yeah. But it's like totally like changes who metamorphosizes you into this other person at a point, because you're like, also because your friends haven't seen it, the people around you haven't, so you're kind of like got all this stuff going on in your head. You're like, especially Night of the Living Dead. I mean, that must have been. You saw that in a drive-in?
And
how scary was that?
It's one of the first memories I have, because like when the truck blows up and they started eating the people, and I guess I started to cry because I've heard the story a million times. And then my mom turned to me and said, they're just having a barbecue. And so then I was like, oh, okay, and that was all right. What did I?
Oh man, that's amazing though. I mean, what a great. I mean, George Romero.
Yeah.
Amazing.
It's too bad there's no more drive, but it is nice that they have theaters like the Brattle where you can see stuff in 35 millimeter and and stuff that you're not going to see at other theaters.
Oh, dude, I live for that.
Yeah.
Like, that's church, Like, I mean, those theaters are the best thing. I mean, to only wish is to have more of those.
Yeah.
Like, I live in LA and we had 2 really good. We have the New Bev and the Cinefam, and New Bev is down for renovations for the last couple months, which has been really hard because most like Saturdays I was there watching films, and the Cinefam is no longer for a series of scandals and stuff. But
that sucks.
Which sucks because it's like the Brattle. I saw so many movies that like changed my life at those places.
Yeah, it's good areas that. Then Coolidge isn't too far away.
Yeah, Coolidge is cool. Yeah. I mean, like I said, the Brattle. When I was in college, I mean, watching Brazil there at a 35 millimeter print really changed my life as well. Yeah.
So you said you live in LA. Was there anything in the movie that like you had thought about previous? Like, if I ever make a movie about LA, like I want this. Like,
the Santa Anita racetrack that we film in. Yeah, I mean, I went there and I was like, I'm a photographer as well. Like, that's where I started. So I do a lot of street and documentary photography. So I've spent years walking around taking photos of LA and just being enamored by it. So a lot of the characters and the locations were based off photos I had taken. So I'd kind of been to all these places and had them all in my head when I was writing. So most of the film is based off places that I had actually had photos of.
Oh, nice. And it's nice that you you stay on some of the scenes, like with the mural of like the Hollywood, and then and then you walk across it slowly and you get to really see it.
We shot that before La La Land, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah. We're the anti-La La Land.
So is that the real Batcave?
That's the real Batcave. That's where Adam West used to drive through, dude. That's where Adam West used to drive through. It's it's up there, and it's just I always wanted to shoot there because I was that's the surreal part of LA. Mm-hmm. Like, yeah, we go hiking to this cave, someone might say, but I'm like, that's also the Batcave that we understand. Our early renditions of Batman were based off of this cave. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's where he would drive through to get into the set.
Yeah, well, that's pretty sweet. So all that's like, it's like classic stuff, but at the same time, it has in the movie has a feel like it's coming to an end, like it's of another era and it's dying out.
It is. Mm-hmm. They're gentrifying at such a high rate in Los Angeles, building all these big buildings. I mean, if you look at the skyline between when we shot and now. Mm-hmm. Like some of those shots look absolutely different, and that was a big thing that's a big theme of the film, right? Here you have this character, Mary, who's really trying to hold on to her piece of the world, and her piece of the world is, some would say, maybe in the past, Mm-hmm. And she doesn't, there's no mentions of cell phones or internet. She doesn't live in that world, Mm-hmm. She likes her things, and she keeps them the way she likes them.
Yeah.
And then when people come and try to change her life, she's just trying to hold on to what is hers. Mm-hmm. And I feel like, I'm a little bit of a retronaut myself, where I'm a fan of the past, and I'm seeing in Hollywood, especially, like it's there's so much building right now. So a lot of those places are going,
Yeah.
So that's why we really, we went and we were like, we got to shoot now, because in 2 years we're not going to have these places that a lot of them are not there. Like even the Tiki Theater, it's all different now there.
And I've only been there a couple times, but I know even the Chinese theater is no longer. It's got like a different name.
Yeah, now it's something. It's like TLC. Yeah, something. Yeah. I mean, it still looks kind of the same outside, but honestly, I try to stay away from there. The place scares me.
Last time I was there, I stayed off Hollywood Boulevard. I rented an apartment there, me and my friend, and people in LA told me not to go there, said it was dangerous, but we had a good time.
Oh, that's where I live in Hollywood. Yeah, that's why I like it, because it is dangerous.
Right.
It's like,
but the whole of LA is dangerous now. It's very dangerous.
Well, no, it's just I think it's
with the gangs coming into the
all the areas,
residential areas.
Yeah, but that's that's how it goes. That's what gentrification does. They come at 3 o'clock in
the afternoon with black masks.
Yeah. Well, but Hollywood Boulevard is. That's why I like it, man. Everyone's like Hollywood. These people come all over the world with their to the Dream Factory, and then they get there, and it's like, oh man.
So it was interesting. You said yesterday during the Q&A that you rewrote the part for Parks because he couldn't sing anymore. Do you think something like that improves it because it adds a level of something that's personal to him?
You know what? That's interesting you say that, because I think with Parks, he's a real character actor, so I don't think he's looking to play himself.
Right.
I don't think Parks was playing himself even in that scene. Talking to the guy and watching him act were two very different people. He's just, I think what it allowed him to do was, but I do think what he did was it was very. At a point, it becomes very honest for him. Mm-hmm. When he says he can't sing, that's real.
Yeah.
And that's a guy that can sing. He can sing better than most people ever heard. Have you ever heard the Red State tapes that he did?
Yeah.
They're pretty phenomenal, And so I do think it elevated parts of it, but I really think he's a character actor. I don't think, and that's why I love him, because it's in Kill Bill where he does Esteban Viejo. Mm-hmm. Are you kidding me? Who are you, dude? You were just the sheriff, and now you're Esteban Viejo. That is phenomenal. But I think it got him to do the role, so that was the best part of it.
Yeah. And you'd mentioned it was one of the best things in your career was working.
Unbelievable. It was incredible to act opposite him. Mm-hmm. He's such a versatile. His choices are so incredible that he makes as an actor.
Yeah.
It's so he gave me so much to work off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I watched the first time I watched a movie. I watched it with my mom, which is weird.
Wow.
And this movie, and And she mentioned, I didn't even know she knew Michael Parks, but she said like she was in love with him like back in the day. And she mentioned a movie, I can't remember the movie, but it was like, I don't know, it's from the 70s or something.
Was it the Wildseed?
It could have been.
Yeah, where he was like, that was like this like really like counterculture film that he was in. That was like, could have been like its own kind of Easy Rider-esque film. I mean, he was so good looking.
Yeah.
I mean, it was unreal. Like he was. You look at photos of young Parks, and he is the best looking man you've ever seen.
But he's so charismatic as a person and so sexy. Mm-hmm. He's like very, very sexy.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
That goes beyond looks. His charisma. And,
Yeah, I mean, he was like smoking cigarettes. He went up to my girlfriend. He was like, "What's up, Red?" It was just right there, and I was like, "All right, man, you do your thing, Parks. It's all on you, man. I love you. Whatever."
I mean, he had about 5 wives, didn't he?
I don't know. He's the best. I mean, he's a.
I could have dated him in a second.
Yeah. Yeah. No, honestly, that dude is a. I mean, he was so cool. He was so good to everyone. He's just a phenomenal actor. I constantly am. I try to find anything I can with him in it. I heard a story that Tarantino has a whole collection, a whole segment in his theater just for Michael Parks films.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
that's pretty awesome.
So I kind of, I mean, the guy's just a phenomenal actor, and I'm always like anything I can find with him in it, I try to watch.
Yeah, and it was cool that he like kind of made a comeback later on with the Tarantino movies and
Kevin Smith and Tusk, which is like. I mean, for that concept that was created on a podcast, you know,
right. Pretty. Can't say I'm a huge fan of the movie, but he's awesome in it.
For sure, I'm not. Yeah. I mean, the whole film is like relies on like Michael Parks turning someone into a fucking walrus.
Right. Was there any significance to the stars that you show on the Hollywood Walk of Fame?
I don't think so. It was the location more, right?
Yeah, not at the end. It was kind of where could we get away with it?
Right.
Yeah.
There was definitely, we were trying to do a few that were there, but funny enough, there was a reference that came about from it, which was there's a lot of stuff of a lot of love. Like I have a lot of love for Sam Fuller, and his wife's in the film, and the one star that she dies on is actually, oh my god, I can't believe I said that. You just got to bleep it, you know.
All right.
The one star at the end is with blood on it was one of his cinematographers.
Oh wow!
So it was cool. Like afterwards, that some of that came about, but no, there wasn't. And I wish, I wish there was. I had the control to create more of that, but in the end, those stars are more. She's an icon of Hollywood in the film, but those stars are famous people that she'll never become and never be solidified as, even though maybe she's earned her right as well.
It'd be interesting, the more people see it, like if they come up with their own reasons, like, why so-and-so star was shown.
Yeah, I'd love it. I mean, I like when people do that in the film. It's like John Carpenter said in Halloween, everyone after Halloween was like, virgins, the people who have sex get killed in films. And he was like, oh, I didn't mean for that to happen.
It's just something,
It created the biggest horror trope of all time.
So how long did it take for you guys to make the movie?
3 weeks to shoot.
And then we shot for 3 weeks, but we rehearsed.
We rehearsed for 3 months beforehand because Orson wanted to bring my speech really down low and very slow, and so we worked very hard on that, and we worked on the script for 3 months beforehand.
Yeah, and then I wrote it. It was about almost a year of writing, and then, to be honest, editing the film and working on it was about 2 years.
Did you do your own editing?
Yeah, I did. I did, and then I brought in another person, Kelly McGillicuddy, who's a little bit more of a pro and refined than me, to help out as well. And then, honestly, there was a great communal thing to it, because, like, my producers are directors and editors as well, so we would all, like, some Saturday nights, like, I'd be like, I'm having a hard time, and, like, they'd come in, and, like, we'd sit all night, and they'd edit, and then I'd come edit, and, like... it was very much that type of movie. It was family, everyone involved.
Is it hard to edit your own stuff? Because I would think some things you're like emotionally attached to just because of like memories of filming that, as opposed to like maybe it doesn't necessarily work in the finished movie.
Oh, it's hard, but it's also beautifully cathartic. There's one thing in the film that like I loved and was obsessed with, and we had mixed. and I got advice from a mentor, and he was like, man, this just doesn't work. He's like, you got to get rid of this. And I was like, we did so much to do this. You don't understand. We broke all the rules. It's like French Connection. And he's like, I don't care what it is. He's like, I don't want to watch the rest of the film at that moment.
Yeah.
So I cut it, and it was like the last thing. So it was hard, but I learned a lesson of like, some things might be precious to you and might work in your head and you think are working, but you can't fight the film. The film is its own beast. So it is hard, but it's also so much fun.
Yeah. So it's good to bring in some other people though to get.
Oh yeah, I mean, you got to be a little careful about, because not everyone's point of, it's not for everyone. But there is a level of like group consciousness that, when you're hearing the same things over and over again, you want to pay attention to. And honestly, I didn't think the film was like a drug. I mean, I was addicted to making this film. Like I could have gone on forever. I still watch it and I'm like, and my producers are like, my friends are like tap me on the shoulder, like, no.
It was a labor of love between everybody.
Yeah. So, how early on did you know like you wanted your mom in the movie?
When I started script, I had another film that I'd written that that character written for her was a supporting character, and it was a male lead, and it's another film I'd love to make. And it's another like Hollywood story, like LA story, a little more east it takes place. But I started writing this script, and that character just stood out to me, and I just wrote it, and from the beginning it was for her.
Yeah.
The character's based on, like, there's a lot of personal stuff, like it's her film, so.
I
had no idea that he'd written it for me. He just came to me and he said, I've written the script and there's a role for you, I'd like you to read it.
Did you know which role it was right away when you read it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you were totally on board?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, to collaborate with Orson, what could be more fun than to collaborate? As a mother and son together. I mean, in my wildest dreams, I never thought it would happen. I mean, I never imagined it.
Yeah. So did the script change at all after you read it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we it was pretty mercurial. Like when we read it, we talk about it. And then other people, as other actors started coming on, we started working on things. I mean, one of the characters got added in, Punk Rock Charlie, who's played by Matt, who's my producer and like my brother. He's like my oldest friend in the whole world. I mean, that was like right before shooting. I was like, I have this idea. So we all were kind of having a good old time. Like, yeah, it was freeing. We didn't have any rules besides let's make a film together.
And I come out of experimental avant-garde theater and film, so for me it was just what I've always done.
You mentioned last night that you did some films together, I guess, when you were a kid.
Oh yeah, when I was in college, I made a few little short films with her in them, which I just found the old mini DV. It was shot on 60mm, but I found the mini DV tape, which I think I got to talk to my distributor. But when we do the release, we're gonna try to put some of them on there.
Yeah, that'd be sweet.
Yeah, we're gonna do some real cool additional feature stuff on there.
Yeah. What were those like to film?
I don't really remember too many of them, but then I don't remember the one day from the other.
Well, I did the one that was based on
Virginia Woolf, I remember, on the top of
the building, the Emily Dickinson.
And that I remember.
Yeah,
very
we did
clearly.
this Emily Dickinson monologue with. It was kind of an experimental, just 60mm film like you get to do in college, and I remember my teacher. There's a scene where like her hands are it's just close-ups of her hands, and my teacher was like, "What are those hands? Those are great hands." And I'm like, "Yeah, I mean, I think they're good hands as well." Like it was interesting. It was this film that was like juxtaposition of like her to Government Center. Just like the crazy brutalist architecture of Government Center, and I was always enamored by that. So it was kind of this film that brought the two of them together as like examining her and examining that, the Government Center and the architecture of that with the Emily Dickinson inspired voiceover.
Yeah. And I like that the movie, has like the retro feel, but it's not over the top, where it's like all, sometimes there's a lot of stuff that comes out now that it's supposed to look like a grindsploitation movie or something, and where it makes it very obvious. This one doesn't, I don't think.
I think, honestly, I mean,
It's not that it does. It's not gimmicky.
No, yeah. We're not. Like, I honestly think we just made the film the same way those films were made.
Yeah.
It was nothing. It wasn't like, oh, we're going to imitate them.
Right.
It was like, we're just going to, because of necessity and budget and the way we were doing it and breaking the rules, like, we were just going to make the films the same way those kind of 70s films and 80s films were made.
Yeah.
And I think that adds a certain energy and style, and also I love those, so I can't like get those out of my head all the time.
Yeah.
But we didn't want it to be like, the kind of fake camp versions of that.
Yeah. I'm not really a big fan.
Yeah, me neither, because I like, because then I get lost in it. I'm like, oh, why are we trying to imitate? Like, just do you, just be you. And I like it more when it's just reminiscent of it thematically and in its style. And like for us, like we literally just like, I mean, besides not shooting the film on like 16 or 35 because it just was too expensive, even though we looked into it, which I would have been my dream. It was just all the same way, running the streets. The streets are our studio.
So you guys said that there's a distributor.
Yeah. Darkstar Pictures, a really cool domestic distributor. He's the man, Michael. He has great plans. Like, we really, this film was very personal to me. Obviously, like, it's very hard. It's hard to get distribution, especially in this like super saturated market. But he's got great taste. His other films are really good, and we just vibed. And he has a really good plan, and I'm super excited.
Yeah.
So it should be coming out later or around early fall.
I have a question for you. What country did you come from?
South Africa, from Cape Town.
Yeah, very cool. And the last year or so, there's a lot of like backlash on immigrants coming into the country. Do you have something to say about that?
I have nothing to say about it.
All right, fair enough.
You are an immigrant.
I am an immigrant.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's like I think it's that's what America's based on.
Absolutely, it's an international country,
Right.
and it's always had immigrants.
How do you feel about because I know we've talked about this a lot, that you're starting to feel like America's politics are becoming very similar
much
to
like South Africa.
Yeah, like
The South Africa that I left, the
Yeah.
apartheid, because I grew up under apartheid. And we've had those discussions about how similar I feel the country is, and especially the people, how very right it's become.
Yeah, it's really weird. And friends like I had that I never thought had like ideas like that. The last few years, it's really become apparent. Like people seem like it's okay to feel that way now.
Yeah, I think one of America's greatest exports is its immigration. For so long, and it was never the easiest place to come to.
It's a difficult country to get into as an immigrant, unless you come from a third world country. It's very easy to get into.
Yeah, but it's still, I'm just saying,
much easier.
Yeah, it's for me, I think that we're living, and the film was about this as well. I think because even though it was still under Obama when I shot it, I
started to rise up.
I felt it. We were looking at it. There was so much.
I really think it was after a gay marriage passed, I started to see people coming out I never expected would.
Yeah, because it was too much for them now. You were just like, what?
Yeah.
You're
I'm from Cape Cod, so it's very liberal, and I just assumed no one thought this way unless they were just some real
John
backwards or
Waters
something.
down,
Yeah,
right?
actually, very close to Provincetown. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's and Norman Mailer. Yeah, so no, so I think we were discussing that. The film is in its way, it is about a person that came to this country and found her found her place, and she did a lot of things that maybe weren't
ethical.
Weren't necessarily, were beyond her moral compass to survive. Similar, I don't know, did you see A Most Beautiful Island, which played last year?
No, I was very sick last year. So.
Oh, yeah. Well, you should check it out. It's on Amazon right now. It's a great film. And it could almost be the story of Mary before, 20 or 30 years beforehand.
Yeah.
It's an amazing story about what a woman has to do to survive in New York. And I just kind of I just saw it recently. I was really blown away by it. And I think, the immigration in this country, it's like it's just fear mongering right now because it's not real. These people are awesome. You know, the film is a political film to an extent because it's about feeling what was going on and feeling people's backlash towards everyone, and the idea of ownership and land and what's mine is not yours, and this what we're really seeing right now at like high level capitalism. You know?
Yeah. The Reagan picture, it stood out to me right away, but I know you mentioned it last night, but, you know, when I was watching the first time, it was in my notes.
Hey, man, any good bad guy's got to have a picture of Reagan above him, right?
I agree.
I had printed out a GW one and a Reagan one, and it was like looking at the two, and I was like, you know, GW, like, he's a real bad guy, but, like, Reagan's a real bad guy. Like, GW we know is a bad guy. Reagan still has this weird air of, like, the Reagan era, and I'm like,
Oh, yeah.
you know,
even amongst people that like you wouldn't think would be praising the guy.
No, dude, he won. Didn't he win almost every state in the country? Like it's like, you know, who knows? But you know, honestly, Reagan was a bad guy. When he was the head of SAG, he like destroyed people's careers, and he was a pain in the ass. And like, you know, I love the film that he always his last movie, The Killers, with Lee Marvin and Cassavetes, and he slaps Angie Dickinson in it, and I'm like, oh, there's a real Reagan. You know, there's just a scene where he slaps her, and you're just like, yeah, that's Reagan right there. You know.
So how can you follow the movie online? See what's going on.
We got our Instagram, Queen of Hollywood Boulevard, and then Twitter, Queen of the Boulevard, and our Facebook, the Queen of Hollywood Boulevard. And yeah, check us out because coming soon. We got a few more fests, and then we're gonna release the film. And like, I really hope you know, people go see it and come out. We're gonna try to do some cool midnight showings.
Cool,
yeah, try to do it like an older like 70s cult film. You know, like. Go back to how they used to do the
like how Eraserhead opened at the Waverly, right?
Like the Ben Barenholtz way of doing films, you know?
Because that was the first movies he produced. I mean, he was the distributor of that. I did with his dad, actually.
Yeah, Cheetah Film. They double featured with Eraserhead for.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I went to see Eraserhead a couple years ago, midnight showing at Coolidge, which was awesome.
You can only see it at midnight.
yeah.
Dude, that film. So how do you make the creature?
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
it's terrific. Well, it's been awesome talking with you,
dude. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for having us.
Fantastic. Hugs.
And we're Facebook friends.
Mother's hug. Yeah, we are.
Yeah. I love that you watch this with your mom.
I friended you, right?
Yeah,
I saw.
I would love. Did she dig it?
Yeah, she did definitely.
Yeah.
I've watched a lot of crazy movies with my mom.
I love that. I watch a lot of crazy movies with my mom.
But wait, some people said last night I'm going to watch one because the Indian guy.
They want to watch it.
I'm going to watch it with his mom.
Yeah, I can't wait. I hope that this becomes like a Mother's Day classic.
You should release it on Mother's Day.
Thank you so much.